Hello, welcome to the JDE and Innovation Sessions delivered to you by Quistor. My name is Jack van der Brink, and I'm hosting a number of sessions on innovation with JD Edwards and how experienced people in the JD Edwards community see things coming and how they see the future of JD Edwards and the technology around it. Today, my guest is Damien Kes. Damien is one of our guys. Completely into Orchestrator, gets a lot of training, has a lot of knowledge on not only on Orchestrator but also on other technologies. Runs around for a couple of years, but obviously he can introduce himself better. So Damien, good day. How are you?
Oh, hi, Jack. I'm doing quite fine. Hope you're doing fine yourself as well.
Yep, sure.
As Jack mentioned, I'm Damien Kes. Have been with Quistor for the last 9 years now, pretty much always in a role of all-round developer and digital transformation specialist, which means that in general, I am the go-to guy within Quistor for customers and colleagues alike when it comes to topics like innovation, modern integrations, accessibility, and those kind of use cases, all revolving around JD Edwards. In order to do so, you would pretty much call me a jack of all trades, meaning I've got quite a broad range of experience with.
I like the first part of that, jack of all trades. The jack.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but indeed, Damien, I think you started up in Quistor was like an internal developer doing some things on our support department, creating all kind of internal scripts, and then move to other areas. So maybe can you give because you're already in the company for 9 years, done a lot of different things. So yeah, maybe some where you started, which technology you hit, because there's a lot of things you saw coming and going, and I think that's a great experience. Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah, as you said, I've started kind of in a role of supporting some internal products, which by now have been replaced by more commercial products. Those were all based on internal web applications, Visual Basic, C#, those kind of languages. I think I've done that for about a year after we started looking into replacing those. And then I moved on to more of a customer supportive role. And I think it was pretty much at the same time that you and I already started looking at more innovative kind of things. So one of the first things that we looked at was DSI's offering, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. The DSI was maybe not the innovative thing you were thinking if you talk about innovation currently, but definitely at that time it was one of the solutions where, especially for barcode scanning and stuff like that, it has really a quite intuitive user interface, and we did a number of implementation with that tooling, and I think you were one of the first people in our organization trained on that tooling and implemented a number of cases there.
Yeah, exactly. I think we had about 3 weeks full-time training on DSI, after which we were dropped into a couple of implementations at various customers, which I have to say were quite interesting and quite broad, ranging from telecommunications companies to vegetable producing companies, so quite a wide range of industries.
Yeah. I also know that you were also, I think, one of the guys who really started on the integration, and when there were integration tools available, more or less, drag and drop type of integrations and creating all kind of flows with a more in-depth thing. I think at that time a lot of JDE partners were looking at tooling for Magic, so I think you're also involved in that area.
Yeah, exactly. We've been after working with both of the mainstream Magic applications, being Magic XPA and Magic XPI, where the XPA is the application platform and XPI is the integrations platform. And even those days, was it about 7 years ago now? That was already pretty much a kind of low-code environment with a lot of pre-built modules and building blocks, a bit like digital Lego. You could slot together visual applications, but also integration solutions. I think one of the bigger ones we've done there is at one of our longtime customers, where we built a mobile iPad application that had some offline capabilities for product ordering at their customers.
And I think nowadays you would not be that mobile application, but definitely it is something where we saw at that time it was not that straightforward, especially not the offline capabilities. And
no, we were pretty much pioneering that.
Yeah, and also the customer was pioneering on like, okay, what happen if we give such a device to an end user? Should I really make sure that it's completely shrink wrapped and they cannot do anything on the settings or not? And they chose not to. But then I know indeed there were several times that we need to fill in like, okay, the device automatically updated to a new OS version and now the thing is not working anymore. So
exactly.
Typical things you now probably would if you look in hindsight, you would see in a different way. You would definitely there's more device management tools around that on that area. And also the market has developed further. So I think that was also more your first steps in going into like mobile apps creation. I think you did a lot of work on the tool we still use a lot on native mobile development and integration. It's Rhinami Kantara. Can you maybe explain a bit what Rhinami Kantara is, how we use it, and how you see that?
Of course. Rhinami Kantara, then Rhinami is the company and Kantara is the product that they deliver, is it's not just an integrations platform, even though that's what a majority of the customers use it for. It enables easy modern-based REST API integration with JD Edwards. And how it does that in the background, we might go over in another session. That's too much to go into. But they also supply a front-end development kit with which one can quite easily build Android-based applications that can be used on either tablets or phones, or in more particular in devices like Zebra scanners, whether those are the full gun type scanners or the more phone-like PDA type scanners. And they also have a very nice replacement, or maybe it can run next to the schedule of JD Edwards, a full cron-based and visual maintainable scheduler for JD Edwards.
Yeah, I do definitely. The owner of Rhinami company, Russell Kotlin, is definitely also on my list to do a session with him also later on, and then we'll have definitely more insight on the Rhinami product and how it really can help innovate JD Edwards also. So that's definitely on the list, and we'll touch base more on that.
That would be nice. Yeah.
So indeed, Rhinami Kantara, Magic, JD Edwards as its own product nowadays. With I think you were one of the first really exploring the AIS part and the orchestrator part for better and worse. Especially the earlier versions of those technologies were probably not always ready for production and more or less like a minimal viable program.
There have been some gray hair moments, yes.
Yeah, and luckily you're still not that gray as me, so that's an advantage. There's
I'm getting there.
Technology to learn. But indeed, so you spent quite a time on this. So if you look at the last couple of years, what is the most things you did in those years? So what technology you worked with? How do you see things like orchestrator and stuff like that? So maybe your personal view on some of the more recent technologies you work with.
Yeah, so the more recent technologies I've been working with are pretty much two main products. Orchestrator, as you mentioned, so Oracle's own low-code integration platform, and the low-code application solution of Mendix. And I do believe that especially these two, both of them have a real synergistic, probably a real synergistic kind of use case within companies that use JD Edwards, where you can pretty much use Orchestrator for any incoming request you need to do to JD Edwards, whether that's creating items within JD Edwards, and I'm using items broadly here, as in address book records or actual item creation, invoice creation, etc., or reading data out of JD Edwards, where you can use a tool like Mendix, or what we've also explored, Visual Builder Cloud Services of Oracle, to generate a front-end either web application or mobile application.
If I see it well, you are really one of the guys, and especially also when we were having this innovation department in Quistor, you were the one exploring a lot of new technologies, first steps in low code, first steps with VBCS from Oracle, which is now part of their strategic offering around mobile. But I also know that we did workshops on IoT and how we could create those IoT devices yourself in workshops. So it was a good time. So yeah, that's quite an interesting background you already have in just 9 years of experience within Quistor, and of course there's a number of things we will address later on. More to a generic point, if you see technology in a broader view, you have experienced technology related to JDE 9 years from now. So what do you expect to have the biggest impact in, what technology do you expect to have the biggest impact in the next 10 years? So how do you see things evolving? Which technologies, where do you think things will really change?
Well, mostly I think that will be on areas that we've already been looking at the last couple of years. Because I think for the last 5 or maybe even 10 years, you already hear a lot of noise around process automation and artificial intelligence, those kinds of keywords, catchphrases, where yes, you have seen some AI and some process automation being used in let's call them more fast-moving and research-intensive areas like financials, banking, Bitcoin. But I think in the next 10 years we will actually see quite a more mainstream implementation of, for example, AI.
Yeah. So we need. I was just picking up this graph, which I really love, is about the traditional ERP and how we move to intelligent ERP. There's quite a lot of things there with things like AI, RPA, chatbot with natural language interaction or processing. So where do you see that the average customer is currently, and indeed, so the technology you see, okay, most important for the next 10 years will be the technologies to bring customers in this diagram further, or how do you see that?
Yeah, if you'd ask about our current set of customers, 2 years ago, I would have said pretty much all of them are still in traditional ERP, so like a quote-unquote dumb system of records, even though there's quite a lot of intelligence and a lot of work done in JDE over the years. It does do what it does very well. But looking at these last 2 years, I've already seen quite a lot of customers moving more towards or moving into the digital platform part of ERP.
Yeah.
Where we see more and more customers adopting real-life integrations, moving away from batch interfacing, actually implementing business-to-business portals or mobile applications to be able to do their work more easily and more proactively.
How do you see AI being part of, because that's one of the major technologies you see for the next 10 years. So how do you see AI becoming really a big part of JDE Edwards? Where do you think AI comes into play?
Well, I think mostly in a setting where JDE Edwards, or I'm not sure if that's going to be within JDE Edwards or some intelligent layer directly around JDE Edwards, but where AI will shine in my perception is to take away some of the mundane work and some of the guesswork, pretty much. There's no reason for JDE Edwards not to be able to, for example, if you look at asset management, based on what we talked about already, or what you already mentioned, IoT devices, based on measuring the assets you have available within your 4 walls, checking their statistics, checking their data, their current usage, etc., to automatically determine when would be the best moment in time, also based on schedules and availability of your maintenance employees, to set up preventative maintenance to prevent downtime. And not
So
just that.
indeed, at that case, it will be AI will be analyzing lots of data based on the machine learning things in there. It probably will say, okay, now you need to issue a work order, and that even that work order will not be manually issued, but will be automatically issued and also automatically scheduled based on all the algorithms involved. And then so this will be completely out of the hands of the people, completely
Yeah, exactly.
automated, maybe in 10
And not
years, and
just the
there's
work
only.
orders, but also the part of where you don't have a whole lot of spare parts laying around in your warehouse anymore, but it does proactive ordering of the parts that you will probably need in the next, let's say, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever.
Yeah, so that's a bit in line with the consumeration we see with AI technology, where probably Amazon will look at my fridge and say, okay, well, the milk is almost done, so I will order you already some new milk, and that's something where it's not there yet, but it will get there more and more, of course. So I hear a big chopper. I'm not sure if you heard it on the background, but
yeah, I think they just moved from over here to over there.
Yeah, probably. Okay, so yeah, so clear you expect indeed AI and all the flavors of that, whether it's RPA, machine learning, or other technology, will be a big impact in the next 10 years, and I think that's a bit what we see also with most of our people working in the business. So yeah, you're in Quistor for 9 years now, and yeah, you develop as a person. The organization is developing. So, what do you expect from first Quistor in 10 years, and then okay, how would you see yourself in there, or the other way around is also perfectly fine for me. So.
These are always a bit of a difficult question. No one has a crystal ball, so to say. But if I would have to see my hopes and my ideas for the future, then first and foremost, I expect and I hope that we'll still be serving our customers to the high degree of professionalism and willingness to step up as we're doing now. I think that the reason that we have grown as fast as we have and that we are able to do all these more, well, let's call it innovative kind of things is because we have never just ran after our customers and simply done the things that they ask from us. We've done that and went far beyond that by actually standing next to the customers and informing them and assisting them based on all the insights and experience that we have gathered over the years. And we're more of a proactive partner, I would say, than someone just sitting there and doing the clicking and typing and that kind of stuff.
Well, more like a trusted advisor and guiding the customer and taking him by the hand in his journey to digital transformation at the moment, more or less.
Exactly, and I hope and I really do see that we'll still be doing that in 10 years' time. But that said, I do see, or I do hope that in the next 10 years, what we call our innovations department will become more of a mainstream pillar of the company. Just like our support teams are, just like our managed services, functional and technical are, that will have a quite a lot bigger innovations department where we can pick up all these modern things and assist customers on their digitization roadmap.
Yeah. And that's the nice play garden you definitely want to keep on using, Damien. I understand that.
Yes. I'm missing those days where we could
to see where you are now and whether it's on cloud technology, whether it's on integration, whether it's on business analytics or in JDE AdWords. If we are not continuously innovating our company, we standstill is dying in these days, and we need to make sure that we are still always capable in advising our customers, especially as you mentioned, we are more and more trusted advisor for our customers, and they rely on us. Of course, they have their external sources and they talk to multiple people, but also our opinion often matters if they chat with us about all kind of innovation technology. So I fully understand. And yourself, how do you see yourself in 10 years? Already retired or probably still working?
Well, something that I talked with one of our colleagues about yesterday, Bitcoin. I think about 7 years ago, we had a colleague who by now is no longer with us, unfortunately. He moved on to bigger and different industries. But we were actually looking into Bitcoin about 7 years ago, and like, yeah, maybe that's an interesting thing to go into, and maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. To be honest, if I did then, with the amount of money I had in mind, I would already been retired now. But hey,
Yeah.
you never know those things in advance. But no, as said, I do hope our innovations department grows a bit, and I hope to see myself in a more leading role in that.
And what do you expect from technology in the next 10 years where you're working for? How do you see, because AI is really a container term, and I have to say, if you look at AI systems 5-6 years ago, it was really, you need to teach them completely yourself, and nowadays, if you see, you probably also receive these daily messages from Microsoft Cortana, where it's really managing your inbox. It learns from all the things you do. So how do you see, what will our role be if we have AI systems available? Would our role be to do the data science around there, or would our role be, okay, how can we bridge the gap between AI and business processes?
I think mostly it will be the latter. Yes, AI will do a lot on its own, and it will teach itself quite a lot if it's set up correctly. But that's still based on "quote unquote" raw data that doesn't necessarily translate into, well, what's best for your business. And I think that's a role that we as Quistor can fulfill for our customers.
Yeah, good, great. So JD Edwards also probably even more than 9, even 11 years ahead. Where do you see that? The support is now extended till 2032. So the good thing is it was past my retirement when the age was 65. Now it's just 1 year before 67. So, but at least I think I will make this time, and we'll keep on working with JD Edwards. And to be honest, 44, the system already exists 44 years, and it will keep on existing afterwards also, and it will be supported. It has a strong pillar in a lot of customers' main systems, so it definitely will stay there. So where do you see JD Edwards in 2032? How do you see it maybe different than it is now, and what's your goal on that?
Yeah, as you said, it has a roadmap till 32. I would not be very much surprised if that's bumped up with another 10 years in the next 5 or 6 years. Knowing Oracle, not just that, but also JD Edwards is quite a complex beast, and it, as I said, it does what it does very well. There's a lot of experience and development gone into it, so it's not that easy to replace with a new out-of-the-box system. So I do see it sticking around for quite a long time in the future.
How do you see it changing then? Because now, also if you look at the graph, it's a traditional ERP. With customers, it's still used a lot of as a traditional ERP and being a system of record. How do you see that change? How do you see, and how do you think Oracle makes that possible to do that change?
Well, I think we've already been seeing a couple of those changes where in the old days you'd really have to customize JD Edwards quite heavily in code based, and these days you're seeing things like your forum extensions and your UDO record setup where you're able to do extensions and changes on a more loosely coupled basis. And I think that trend will continue, where JD Edwards itself more or less becomes an intelligent system of records that does all the heavy lifting, but everything that you need to have around it, like your user interfaces, your integrations, etc., will be in a separate layer around it.
So it will be more like Gardner says it, like system of record, system of differentiation, system of innovation, and probably because that layer will be more easy to adjust. It can be more a system of innovation, but still has the strong power of its very detailed table structure, business logic, which are very stable and reliable, but then on top of that, we can create all kind of innovative things around that.
I think that's where we're going to be heading. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also a bit probably what you see already with Orchestrator and the technology we are using currently on a day-to-day basis, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, that already enables loosely coupled changes or loosely coupled integrations and front end interfaces for into JD Edwards. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. So 10 years is far from now. So if we look just 5 years ahead, what do you expect? What would be the change the most significantly? And I think, yeah, we already touched a bit on this. I think you probably would see this in the area of user interface, personalization, and the low-code orchestration platform, or?
Yeah, exactly. I already see it happening now, to be entirely honest. Even though there are still some things that you would love to have an orchestrator to really be able to have quote unquote external user interfaces to JD Edwards, but knowing what is coming and speculating a bit on that, yeah, I think that a tool like Orchestrator will become quite a heavy pillar of JD Edwards, where if you need to do something specific that you're now doing within JD Edwards, it will quite simply be done externally through Orchestrator to interface into JD Edwards.
Yeah, so you probably will see that customers will start, as we see currently already, that customers will start getting rid of all kind of complex customizations, having tools outside of JD Edwards who maybe can do this more in a standard way without customizations, get rid of these customizations in JD Edwards, so it makes them more easy to stay code current and to keep them maintained on the latest releases, and have just orchestrations built for the integration or the calling the business logic from external and internal and connect it all together.
Yeah, because if you look at one of the other sessions you already had with regards to chatbots, that's not something that you would ever try and build within JD Edwards, but with the tool set that Oracle is developing around JD Edwards, like Orchestrator, it suddenly becomes possible to have a chatbot that interfaces with JD Edwards, gets its data from it, and execute actions within it.
Yeah, so we need what we probably already did 4 or 5 years ago with the Amazon Alexa. We could call it out and approve purchase orders, just like indeed we were talking. Of course, it maybe it's not the favorite communication device or business device in if you're working in an office garden setup, but definitely it is something where it shows how that was the first step in being capable of that. But I think that if we would do the same exercise now, it'd probably be already a lot more easier to integrate that and to call those integrations. So,
yeah, for sure.
So to summarize, you think in 5 years' time, the majority will be in further development of the orchestrator. Make sure that is a platform where it can more or less integrate with everything around there, with being able to deliver a unified user interface where it doesn't matter which platform will be underneath.
Exactly that.
Yeah, good, great, clear. Yeah, we addressed also a bit the user interface and user role of the future. How do you see this, maybe not in 5 years' time, but longer or shorter? And we see personalization, we see consumeration, also in the ERP market. And so I think Microsoft Teams is a great example where you can easily transfer your session from a mobile device to your desktop. You recognize, oh, you have a session open, or do you want to transfer that? We see things where with our low-code solutions, we already built solutions where we have one more or less standard user interface connecting to different applications underneath. So do you expect that this will grow and that we will have more like a user interface platform where from there we will connect to the different types of systems, or how do you see that?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I am expecting. And you already see that with our mobile phones, don't you? More and more things are manageable from one single device, and whether there are various applications beneath it, especially if you're using an Apple device, it all pretty much looks and feels the same anyways. So you're not necessarily feeling or experiencing that you're working in 3 or 4 or 5 different systems. It's all quite intuitive and it flows quite well between the different systems. And I think that that is something that will be coming to ERP systems and JDE outputs in more particular as well.
Yeah, clear. So indeed, I think in the mobile technology has always been a few years ahead compared to ERP technology, but definitely I also see that probably we will not use an app for everything. It will be more like that we have like a seamless user interface, which is working well on a mobile device, which is working well on a desktop device or a tablet device, or maybe even your watch, if it's useful to have it on the watch. I think.
Yeah, exactly.
So the devices will also be based on the type of device. There will be a type of application probably, and that will be more specific.
Yeah, I think that will be the case. And if you then look at what those interfaces really entail, I don't think we're going to radically change the way that we use interfaces. Yes, we have seen quite some changes, moving more from keyboard or mouse to swiping and tapping, which is something you would never have expected 10 years ago. I don't think that's going to change radically. What I do think is there will be you already see it happening now, a little layer on top of that, in the form of chatbots, not necessarily voice chatbots, but being able to have a WhatsApp or any of those kind of conversations with your backend systems, and whether that's then just against JDE Edwards or a myriad of systems that's to be left in the middle. Yeah. But I think by being able to just talk to your systems via asking questions and having it execute for you, that's something that we're going to see happening more and more.
How do you think this will impact our managed service department? Because you were also already developing part of those systems 10 years ago. These were then really straightforward web applications for ticketing and stuff like that. Now we have out-of-the-box tool, but that is also open for APIs. We use a lot of Oracle Cloud technology nowadays, where also a lot of things can be automated. Do you also expect that, because if we are adding collaborative tools like Teams and Slack to JDE Edwards, do you also think that our managed service will move into that way, where it also doesn't matter which interface we use, and that you just by typing a chat conversation you will log a ticket? Or how do you see that?
Yeah, that's and to be honest, that's not something that we've just thought up right now, right? That's something that, at least for me, has been in the back of my mind for quite some time already. And I think you and I have talked about that before as well. How awesome wouldn't it be if our customers just had a single endpoint into Quistor, and whether they phone us up or they open their WhatsApp and ask some questions, most of that doesn't really have to go to one of our employees in the first case. A lot of those things can be handled by a smart interface, by a piece of AI. Simple questions like, what's my invoice going to be, or what has been the health status of my system the last couple of hours, the last couple of days. You wouldn't necessarily need a human being for that, and it would be great if our customers would be able to do something like that.
Yeah, so there's great development work to do there, indeed, definitely. And I think also that would indeed be the user interface of the future. Will just give you access to everything and just ask things. So where I'm sitting at my desk, I will just ask my bank, okay, hello, my bank, this is me, I'm authorized. Can you give my current asset? And then I'll switch to indeed my IT supplier and say, okay, can you give me a status of my systems? And whether I type it, I ask it, or whatever, it can be one single user interface where I just could just ask those things and manage that around. But I think we're still far away from that, but definitely that's something where we can all dream about. So that's good. So what do you see, which area do you think you will delivering solutions? I think Orchestrator is quite broad and can cover the whole thing of JDE Edwards. We have cloud, we have business analytics, JDE Edwards, development. So what do you think where the most innovation root reside, and where do you think we're delivering solutions around JD Edwards? What type of solutions would it be?
Well, if you look at our current customer set, I think a lot is to be gained at our customers on the smart warehousing side, but also on their customer and business-to-business facing applications.
So the smart warehousing side, and we'll touch the other ones later on. So smart warehousing, you mean that we use more AI technology to optimize routes, to optimize predictions, to optimize minimum and maximum quantities available and stuff like that, or
for example, but next to that, there's still quite a lot of separate systems and separate processes within our customers, within their warehouses, where I do see that the whole lot could be more automated and more streamlined.
And you mean like paper forms, something, or?
Yeah, moving forms into applications, but even beyond that, you know, why would you have to pick up one of your barcode scanners, move over to a pallet, scan it, pick it up with your forklift, move it to a location, scan that location? If you have some more, well, they're not cutting edge technology anymore these days, but they were about 10 years ago, things like Bluetooth beacons and that kind of stuff. You could just quite simply pick something up. Your forklift will tell you, nope, leave this alone, or if it's all fine, you can just pick it up and drive away, put it in another location, and it's automatically assigned there without you having to ever open up an app and scan anything. I think that could really help quite a lot of customers.
The broader adoption of things like RFID technology, beacons, sensors, these things probably
gateways, etc.
Yeah, will make the warehouse more easy. And in other areas?
As said, a lot of our customers, I think, could do with business to business and business to consumer portals. We already see this happening at one or two of our customers. And that's more than just a simple quote unquote web shop, but more, as we talked about for our support desk, an integrated and single point of entry for their customers for the documentation, their contracts, their invoices, their outstanding orders, placing orders, etc., etc.
So that's something we see also for definitely not only internal but also external for our customers. We see due to the pandemic that a lot of customers speeded up their e-commerce plans. So started to do B2B portals more quickly and quickly build integrations. Of course, sometimes only like the first steps on this, but definitely that will be more integrated in future releases. So that's an area where we see a lot of things to be integrated. Then I think the last thing you said is also integrated not only processes like order entry or availability, but also combine it with documents. So then you think about tooling like for example, Oracle Content Experience Cloud to connect that with JD Edwards for building a portal, but also show documents, or?
Yeah, exactly. And that's not just a broad idea or something that's just bouncing around in my head. That's actually something that we are actively doing at one of our customers, replacing an old-fashioned on-premise document storage with Oracle's Content Experience Cloud, and being able directly from JD Edwards to, for example, on your invoices, click through a URL and end up in Content Experience Cloud and see the document available.
Yeah, and the next step would be that also would be like an external portal where the customer can log in and see his invoices and stuff like that, which are just generated by JD Edwards and automatically put there.
Yeah, exactly. And the next step would be if they have any questions about that particular invoice, click on the invoice, start a chat, and directly be in contact with someone from the customer to answer those questions.
Yeah, or even better, a chatbot in front, and then
exactly.
only for the exception a customer will take over.
Exactly. Yeah. I do see that not happening next year, but definitely somewhere down the line. Yeah.
Yeah, I see that a lot of customers indeed use the process of invoices by printing or saving the PDF, sending it through an email, like this is the invoice you didn't pay, here it is again, then probably there's questions about this invoice, so then the attachment goes back again. Yeah, we think this is wrong, and you would be better to make sure if that invoice is in line with the work you did, the articles are get. So I think the further extension of the whole PO three-way match thing, which should address already a number of these things, then you have the next step indeed to also manage the exceptions further. So I can understand
exactly.
that. Good,
minimize human interaction.
Yeah, definitely. And then, is there any areas where you see, you just raised already a few customer examples, but are there specific customer examples where you see you're very expert, a strong expert on Orchestrator? You even deliver international orchestration training to our customers to guide them, to help them with the system. So how do you see customers looking at use cases for Orchestrator? How do you see that they take first steps on innovation with the usage of Orchestrator?
Well, that's actually quite broad. Yes, you do see these low-hanging fruits that we've talked about, like your document storage, like generating invoices. But there's also a couple of customers, or at least one of the bigger ones lately, that are going one step further, or one step beyond that, not just generating invoices, but they've actually built an entire planning portal to be able to plan their purchases and sales and available stock within JDE Edwards through Orchestrator in an external application, where they can simply drag and drop what they have available in the warehouse to sales orders that they've got, or purchase orders and sales orders that they've got outstanding.
Okay, so they really go just hit the screen and grab this load and say, okay, I'll assign it to that sales order.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that's a great great graphical view, which probably now takes around 5-6 JDE screens to do.
Yeah, and if you want to move one, let's say you've assigned some stock in your warehouse to an order, and if you now in JDE Edwards want to move that to another order, you'll first have to go into your previous order, take it off, make some changes to some lines, commit it, then have the stock available again, then move into the other order, assign it again. While on that external interface, just a drag it from one back to the other, and it's reassigned.
Okay, that's great, and that is really facilitated through Orchestrator then.
That is fully facilitated through Orchestrator, from getting the data as what is available based on availability, purchase and sales orders, through to actually making the updates in JDE Edwards.
Yeah. So Orchestrator is definitely one of the innovative tools innovative technology we use a lot. Is there anything else people should start looking at based on innovative technology related to JDE Edwards?
Yeah, then we're going to come back to one of my favorite tools. I think you and I can agree on that. Not just the low-code tools for integration, but low-code tools for application development, and then in particular my favorite, Mendix.
Yeah. So indeed, that's an innovative, complete platform. Indeed, we see also more close to JDE, but some alternatives. I have a session on that also. But I see indeed the advantage of low-code, and definitely the difference between no-code and low-code, where a no-code platform, especially if you want to connect it with JDE Edwards, always needs some additional coding. And with a no-code platform, it's not managed within the platform. There's coding outside, and with a low-code, you can have a business analyst doing the no-code studio. You have a developer who can do the whole stack and create some additional scripting. A bit like what we see with Orchestrator, where we can develop steps by a business analyst, but then the developer can add the Groovy script type of things, which make additional steps possible. And I think
exactly,
indeed also with Orchestrator, it's part of the solution. And I think that's why I think a no-code solution is never complete. It should always be able to manage a certain type of coding.
I think it has its place, but more or less on the most easy kind of use cases. If you just need something very simple, an app to quickly have a list of outstanding things, that should be quite doable with a no-code solution. But if you want to do a little bit more in-depth business processes, then yeah, definitely no-code won't go, low-code will.
Yeah, clear. Okay, so is there anything you say, okay, this would be fun to show? Is there something where you say, okay, well, we do a lot of things with Orchestrator? Is there something you quickly want to say, okay, this is like something nice to see, or something straightforward where you say, okay, this is a typical example I see customers asking me a lot, and this is something you can do with Orchestrator? Or
maybe not per se a typical example. What I do find quite interesting is even within a low-code, no-code platform like Orchestrator, where you would imagine that there's always only one road leading to Rome, so to say, there are actually multiple ways to solve not necessarily a problem, but to solve a specific use case. And then one of the easiest that you can show without going into a whole lot of detail is address book lookups, just to keep it easy. So maybe we can quickly show how easy it can be.
We'll just show some things, because people are just listening to us and some boring slides. So we're good to also see some real application work. I will stop sharing my my content.
So if we were to take our example of looking up a specific employee in the address book of JDE Edwards, there's two ways to do that. If we look at the top row here in the Orchestrator Studio, we can see we've got something called forms requests, and we've got something called data requests, where forms requests actually use the applications within JDE Edwards. So in this case, it will be the PO1012, and where the data requests actually read directly from the tables and views in JDE Edwards. And to show that it is quite easy to do both, I'll just create two quick requests to show to get the same data, but in two different ways. So I'll just go into forms requests, and as said, I can go over 5 half days of training on Orchestrator Studio, so you're not going to see anything in depth. I'm not going to explain pretty much anything you see on the screen. I'm just going to be touching on the main parts. So I'll create a new forms request. I'll give it a unique name so I can find it later. Forms request AB. If I can still type in correct English, that is 55, that's fine. Demo category is also fine. And I'll add a specific step in our forms request. So I will be saying, I want you to go into the P01012, and I want to execute the work with addresses form, because every application, as you can see, has got a number of different forms to do the different things for that application. In this particular case, we want to work with addresses. We want to do a lookup, so I'll use the B one. I'll just put that JDE just because we can. I won't touch on the rest. There's a whole lot of settings here that can influence certain things when executed, but for now that's not important. We'll just run through it and get our steps done. So now we've loaded up the P01012 application, and I can do pretty much the steps that I would do in JDE Edwards. I can emulate here. So I'll say I want to set up the search type. I want to input an alpha name to search for. Just for the fun of it, I will display the address and the phone information. And you may or may not know in JDE Edwards, those are toggle boxes. So I can just say default value toggled on. So you tick them as you would on the screen. And I don't need that as an input because I've set a default to be ticked. So I'll just take that out. Last thing we need to do is hit the actual button, to do the find. So I'll hit that there. I've got a search type, I've got an alpha name that I'll be searching for. I'll be checking 2 boxes, and I'll hit find to actually get the data. Obviously, we then want something in return, so we'll go into the grid. We'll select a row, and I shall return, and I can default that to 1 just because I can. And we will return some things like the address number, the alpha name, long address. Well, let's just do that for now. And as you might see, I've selected 4 different things here. We only see one return form data section here, but everything I selected is available, and I'll be getting that returned from our forms call. Right. Here we see the actual main part of Orchestrator Studio, the capability of making an orchestration, which is pretty much just a visual representation of the steps you will be taking in JDE Edwards. So I'll hit the plus here to add an extra step, forms request. And let's look for the demo thing we've just created. I'll go out of design mode, because in design mode one can add extra steps, and out of design mode one can actually configure those steps. So I'll configure it by going into this button with the available inputs for that call, because obviously we need some input to be able to search in JDE Edwards, so we need the search type and the alpha name. I will just default that. I'll be lazy for now and hit the auto map button. Add input, sorry, auto map, and it'll just add all the inputs here to the orchestration as a whole, which is then available to the outside world to use. Since I've defaulted this, I'll take that back out again. I also don't want the version, and I'll default the row again. Yep, of course. Demo org AB. Into a demo category as well. Hit save. I'll go into the actual inputs that I've just created. I'll say I want the alpha name as a required input, so you have to supply it to the orchestration. The other ones I've set to default, so I'll take out again. So you can see it's quite easy to administer and set up the inputs and steps that you need in JDE Edwards quite quickly. So we've got an alpha name input here. If I were to try and test run this, you'll see that in our testing application, which is integrated within the studio, we'll also see replicated that alpha name input that's available. And I'll just do that, and let's see if it returns something. And yes, it does. It does return it in a standard fashion of Orchestrator Studio. Because I did not select specifics, it'll return everything from all the steps that I've done. For now, there's only one step. So we see service request 1 here, and we see the actual application and form we've called. This can be tailored to specific fields with specific names, but since that would take some more time than 5 or 10 minutes, I won't do that now. But we can see we've got a row set, and we actually see an MO key 6105. We see the address number. We see the actual alpha name, so that's me. My user ID in the long address. The search type, yes, it actually is a search type E, as we can see. And for this particular example, I actually have 2 different address book records in JDE Edwards, now a demo. I also got an MO key 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, just because. So that already shows if there is one row, I'll get one row. If there is multiple rows of data available in JDE Edwards, we'll just get each and every one of them. And yes, that can be tailored as well. That's using the forms.
So why should you use different options, Damien? Why would you use a form or instead of a data request, or why just the other way around?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And this might sound counterintuitive. Usually a data request is faster because you're skipping some forms and you're going directly through the data browser, technically in JDE Edwards. But when you're doing lookups with where you need a lot of sessions and a lot of settings and a lot of preset variables, which in most forms applications JDE Edwards are done via the version, then it's usually easier and faster to go through a forms application. So you don't then have to replicate all the search terms and all the, for example, the date presets and all those kinds of things. Maybe there are even queries already set up for that particular form that already filter some of the data. If you were to go through a data request, and I'll show that very quickly in a minute, you'll have to set up all those variables yourself. You'll have to pretty much replicate the logic or the data selection that the form is doing. Yeah. So for complex things, it's easy to go through forms. If you just have something like this, where it's quick and easy to say, okay, get me all the rows from the Evo 101 with search type E and something in the alpha name, then it's pretty much equal.
So is it like, for example, if I need to have for example, portal software calling an orchestration to give me a certain amount of records, where speed is important, and probably a data request is a better way than a form request?
Usually, yes.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, clear. Yeah.
So I'll stay in our orchestration. And before I went to the main screen and hit form request there, I can also just say I want to add an extra step here and say I want a data request. And instead of then selecting something, I'll just hit new. And within a pop-up, I can do the same thing that I could from the main screen as well. So you don't have to go out of your orchestration and constantly go back and forward to the main screen. So demo, dr data request, AB lookup. Same thing. We're in demo, and that's not good. You should always leave it at 55 reserved for clients, or one of the other reserved for client fields, 57, etc. But let's just use 55. I've got a this stems from my DSI time. I've got a habit of constantly saving to make sure I don't lose things. Certainly not necessary with Orchestrator, but it's just something I'm used to. So the table that we want to read, Evo 101. Let's see if I can push past this loading thing. Yeah, so it's not sure what it's doing here, but and we've got the same kinds of actions available that we had on the forms request. We actually see all the, in this case, all the fields or all the columns available in the Evo 101, and I can say, well, I want to filter, and that's the button here, on the alpha name, and I want to filter on the search type. I have a match all, so both of them should be true. If I set it to a match any, then even if my name doesn't exist in the alpha name, it'll still return all the rows with the search type E. But because I want to do a combination of both, I'll say match all, alpha name, and I'll say in this case contains. I don't like this variable, so I'll just call it that. Because to differentiate it from the other alpha name we already have available, I'll just put dr after it. Search type, I do want to equal to, and in this case, I can leave it like this with the dollar brackets with a name between it, or I can hard code it again and go, yep, just give me everything that's search type E. And same thing here, I want to return the address number, the long address, the alpha name, and shall we do search type just for good measure, so we can check whether it actually is of the type E. And there's a whole lot more things available, like aggregation and group bys and orders, which I will not be using here or not be going over. I can spend another couple of hours on that. But as you can see, there's quite a lot of fine tuning that you can do on your data request. Let me save it. Let's hope it pushes through. Yep, successful. So I'll just go out of here. For now, I shall remove our forms request, go back into the mappings that we had. And since we already had an alpha name available, if I kept this name the same as the other ones, I wouldn't have been able to do auto map because I gave it another name. I have to manually select it. So I'll go alpha name. I'll hit save. And we can do the same test run again. See what it does. And once again, we get a row set, and we see we found the 2 rows that we found earlier. And it took, what is it, 240 something milliseconds, not all that long. And I've got my primary address book record, so the 6185, and I've got the other demo one, the 123457 again. So whether we're going through the forms or whether we're going through the tables, through the data requests, we can get the same data. Just depends on what particular use case is that you're having at that moment.
And indeed, this is really no need to code anything. Of course, some JDE knowledge would be more easy because then you can, do you know which program is the address book or which table is the address book and stuff like that. But for the rest, it's quite straightforward if you know the steps you should do and the logical flow. Of course, this is a simple one, but definitely it is for people. Business analysts with JDE experience already, they should be able to create their own orchestrations quite quickly, I assume.
Yeah, very much so. And if you do know your steps in JDE and you're very familiar with JDE but not with the orchestrator, you can enable something called a process recorder in JDE and you can just record the steps you're doing on your forms. And they will then be available as a forms request that I just manually made in this little example. But then it will be generated for you based on the steps that you have done within JDE.
Okay.
Yes, it does need some fine tuning and some cleanup, but it can save quite a lot of work if you've got a lot of complex steps to do.
Yeah, that's great. And indeed, if you then know and understand the orchestration a bit, you can go in there and see, okay, is this all as I expected? Do I need to? Do we all need all the fields probably the application is using, or can I close them out because I don't need them and I just want to have the selection of the fields I really want to have populated?
Exactly that. Yep.
Great, good. It was a good overview and some good things. Anything else you want to share or say? Well, we're close to probably an hour now, so probably best way to say if people want to see more, if people are interested in the orchestrator or what you can do with it, there's always a good chance to reach out to Damien or myself, and I will share the details at the end of the recording. But definitely, yeah, reach out to us if you need to know more, and definitely if you want to know an overview, we can give you an overview session in 1 hour, 2 hours, or like half a day. But if you really want to go in depth, then there is a full 5 half-day training, which can be given by Damien, where you have your own environment where you can really play around. And even if that's not enough, we can also give you additional courses on the very expert level of orchestrations and how you can extend them with Groovy script and all kind of things. So yeah, Damien, I think this brings us to the end of this open session discussion and some things you showed us. So is there anything else you want to extend on, or is it something you say, okay, I'm happy as it is?
No, I'm quite happy as it is. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. Thanks for spending time with me and going through these questions. It was good to hear your opinion, your view on the future of JDE and the future of Quistor and your personal view on things. So I really appreciate that. I appreciate your time. I hope you have a very nice day, and yeah, we'll talk soon. And people look at the details at the end of the session so you can reach out to us for further questions. So thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, Jacques.